My name is Alana Hamlett. I'm one of the assistant directors in the Student Activities Office.
And I'm Katie Maloney, and I work in the Alumni Association.
So kind of to give you a little bit of a roadmap of what we're going to do this session. We'll do some introductions because we want to get to know who you all are. And we are going to kind of talk about finding your way into a student organization, kind of ways that you can pick up what the organization is about and if that connects with the values that you personally have. Once you find the student organization and you're a part of it, then what do you do? And kind of the role that alumni can play in figuring out the mission and the culture and the values of a student organization. And then we'll have some time for questions from both of you. So first we'll talk a little bit about kind of finding your way. And I wanted to highlight 5 principles that I think is important to kind of think about from the side of kind of looking at student organizations and getting involved and finding organizations that you want to be involved in. So the first is mission. So you want to kind of get to know the organization and ask whether it's the leadership or other members what their mission is of their organization. A red flag, obviously, is if the leader of the organization has no idea what the mission is. And those founding documents should be in things like their constitution, if the organization has a website, things like that. And some organizations, if they're connected to kind of a national chapter, they'll pull that from the national organization, but others, for organizations that are kind of just confounded here at MIT, they need to have a mission that guides them, that attributes kind of what they do, why they're doing it, and it needs to be clear and it needs to be focused. So that's kind of a first indication of where the organization is, and kind of it helps you figure out what you would get out of the organization if you got involved. The second thing is membership. So it's not only the numbers in terms of how many members they have, but talking to members about what their experience is in the organization, kind of what they feel like they get out of it. Do they feel comfortable going to meetings, or do members take an active role and involvement in the student organization? That can tell you a lot about what the organization is. And I think even within that, language is really important. So if you go to a meeting, kind of what sort of language are the members using at the meeting in terms of feeling engaged and feeling invested, and just in general in terms of healthy, appropriate language, and just knowing that. And I think the numbers part is important because the more members an organization has, hopefully they're utilizing their members and there's an active involvement that happens within the membership. Inclusion is the third one, and that's really important because that while there are organizations that have a specific interest or have a specific goal, it's important that all members feel connected and included within the organization. So how is the organization making everyone feel included? And I think with that, dependent on the organization and if there are meetings or discussions that are happening in the organization, what happens when someone disagrees with kind of consensus? What does that look like? How's that person made to feel? Because we're not always going to agree when we're a part of these types of groups, and so you can really kind of get a sense for an organization when someone disagrees or if there's conflict, and how that's dealt with, and how someone may be on the receiving end of conflict, how they're taken in by the organization or not. Uniqueness, obviously, is another one in terms of what is the organization bringing to the campus in terms of programs, branding, and trying to find out what makes this organization special. Because when you find out those things and you learn those things, those will be the things that either gravitate you towards the group or make you say, that's not really my cup of tea. It's not something I really want to get involved in. But it's something to kind of ask about and learn about. And I think it's not a bad thing to ask a group, like, what makes you unique? What program do you do? What you are involved in the MIT community or in the Boston or Cambridge community that you feel like makes you stand out from the 448 other groups that are on campus. That's a really large number too, I just want to point that out. And then programming, kind of what are the things that they're doing? And is programming essential to their group? Some groups it's not. Some groups are just, they get together to have discussion about their major or a specific topic. But for other groups, programming is really an essential component of their organization. I think this comes into play a lot with cultural groups on campus. A lot of them do a lot of programming, whether it's a week during a specific Heritage Month or something that culminates a tradition on campus. And so finding out what programming is happening within the organization and who they market that programming to, who they want to come to that program, because again, those would be things that'll tell you a lot about the organization and what its goals and what they're looking to get out of it, what they're looking for membership to get out of it. So any questions about that? All right. So the other thing to think about, sorry, I'm not putting the mic up to my, is that while every organization is not going to cater to your specific needs or goals or interests, all student organizations should never be involved with hazing, and they should never be discriminating against anyone. Every recognized student organization fills out a non-discrimination form online, and they fill out a hazing form. And within that, it kind of explains the policies and how MIT and then the larger Cambridge and Boston community don't allow for that. And so just to put that out there, if you know of people that feel like they've been discriminated against or are dealing with any issues of hazing within their student organization, that's something that you should let the Student Activities Office know immediately. And that could be something that we will keep it anonymous, and we won't out you to kind of the general larger campus community, but it is something that would need to be investigated and found out more about. So we definitely don't want that happening to any of our students within our student organizations. And so the other portion of this is, as from an individual kind of looking into a student organization, we talked about what should be done and what's important to look for. But then thinking about the other side, kind of what is the role of a student organization and what is its responsibility in terms of connecting mission and value and goals, and finding individuals that are interested in the organization and making them feel included. So I think one of the things to think about as a student organization is the idea of change. And so on one hand, you want to balance traditions that the organization has, but on the other hand, you want to be creative, you want to be innovative, you want to be forward-thinking. And so how do you balance those out, and what do you do to kind of get yourself to a point where your organization can grow? And I think that's where you utilize your membership and you look to attract a diverse membership, because those will be the places where your membership will allow you to bring in new ideas and innovative ideas and help your group grow. The second part kind of connects back to what I was talking about on the individual side in terms of inclusion. So I think it's important that leaders of a student organization target and attack any sort of neglectful or detrimental behavior that members are doing to each other or on behalf of the student organization, because that's a place, again, where you see the values and the mission of a group. So if you see their members doing things that kind of contrast what the mission of the group is, or just what it means to be, a civil and nice person, those are things that a student organization should be talking to that member about, or even at the end of the day, thinking about if that member should be a member of that organization. And I know those are hard things to think about and to actually say to other people, but in the end, the organization's goal is to live its mission. And so if you have people that are doing things that are outside of the mission of the organization, they need to talk about that. And then the last one again goes into kind of to parallel again in terms of membership. So you want to attract members that are involved in the organization, but then are also interested in bringing about positive change and being innovative and creative and really helping the organization grow. So it's not just about, I think, thinking about from a leadership perspective, that it's not just the leaders of the organization whose responsibility is to help the organization grow. It should be the members, and members should be actively involved which is why we kind of go back to that, they need to know what the mission of the organization is and the goals and the values of the organization. I think that the next one is you, Katie.
I think so
Yes.
too. So I'm going to talk about how you can use your alumni to help build your organization, and how Alana talked a lot about being innovative, building the mission, strengthening the organization kind of through change or being open to change. You can use your alumni, and there's also that sense of tradition and what the whole group has, maybe the history of the group, and that's something that's very important too, to also kind of stay true to the mission, and keep that group having what makes it unique and what makes it special. So there's a few things that I wanted to talk about, and one is, what is the history of your organization? What are your traditions? Why do you have those? I think that that's really important, that when you're in an organization, that you know why you're doing things. And part of that maybe can come from your mission. Part of it can come from stories that are passed down, or things that have worked very well. I think it's very important that the current members make sure they seek that history out. And that they also have a way to hold on to the historical documents. I mean, if you have an annual event, you want to have a copy of that program, and maybe that's something that's physical, or now it's so easy to store things electronically that then can be shared. A hard drive, I'm not sure of all the technical terms, hard drive, a zip drive, something that can be passed down, or that there's a wiki, there's some sort of storage facility, I really don't know, but that you have something that can be shared. And then too, that's even good in that your meeting minutes, your officer roles and responsibilities, job descriptions, that can be shared and then and reevaluated and looked at for the person the next year. Then when they're done with their role, how they've done and how they've grown and developed the position can be passed on, and you can trace things back. And I think that that's very, very important. I think for a student organization to have a strong website is a really good tool these days, so that when you are speaking to prospective new members, or to your alumni, or to possible supporters, or I'm recognizing all my verbal filler now that I have this microphone on. Sorry about that, guys. That you can be able to say, this is our website, which shows our mission. It talks about what we do, who we are, and why we're important. And part of that could include your history. And having some sense of that history is important. And I think having that on your website is a good exercise to kind of remind people and keep people thinking about updating it and keeping all of that information fresh. Interviewing alumni from past years. I don't know how long has
5 years.
5 years. So it's
6 years.
yeah, it's pretty new.
Yeah.
Whereas your fraternity is probably pretty old, and so that probably the history and the stories is a little more important. But that's not to say that you aren't at a very right position, 5 years in, that maybe some of those stories can help really continue to build the traditions.
Yeah. It's a really nice idea. I think it can be pretty inspiring. But for a group like mine, which is not exclusively, but in some part about kind of finding a career,
Yeah.
in a non-traditional path, I think it could be really inspiring to see stories of alums who, found
And even,
And a network.
right,
Yeah.
Network.
and them even being able to say, the organization helped me
Yeah.
X. So I think that that's something that is very good for you to do, and just helps everyone see. And as we talk about, and this is probably less with a 5-year-old organization, but we could use a fraternity as an example. The way fraternities were run or how they did things back in 1950 are very different from how they do them now. And so being also then to be able to tell the story about how you have changed and maybe why that's better, and how you can't do things the old way. Having that connection with the alumni to understand what their story is and appreciate that, but then also have them appreciate your story and what it means to be a part of the organization now. More what I want to talk about too is, who are your members? We don't know. The Alumni Association doesn't know who the members of individual student organizations is. So we do need to know if you could make an annual task on an executive person's job description be send the current membership list to the Alumni Association, that is something that then we would know. And then 5 years from now, you would be an alum and the current members could find you. That's very important. I know with your organization, with the Science Technology Policy, you also have, when you go to DC to do lobbying, you have alumni that maybe have served as hosts or sponsors, right, and aren't maybe members of the organization, but perhaps they could be coded as volunteers, yeah, or supporters, yeah, and that's something that we can even do for you. Okay. And then what we can do is make your members, your supporters, or just your members, we can talk about it, mm-hmm, searchable on the online alumni directory. Mm-hmm. If you'd like to create a way to create like an email listserv, we can do that so that those alumni can be contacted.
And is that coding them? Is that something that they need to approve in any way, or is it
nope,
mostly just internal?
Yep. So coding can be done one of two ways. The organization comes to us and says, here are our members, and then we'll code them. Or the alum can go on their profile and identify the organizations they were members of, and they can click the box. Now, if someone says, oh, I got coded as a part of this group, and I really don't want to be, mm-hmm, they can unclick the box. So they can opt themselves out. But most times, alumni do not do that. Since we control the data, if we know who your alumni are and you want to get lists to review what their job titles are, the companies they work at, you want to send a mailing to them, or you'd like to send out a special email or send out a special email to a subset of them, we can give you that data. We have a data request form on the Alumni Association page. When you go to the Alumni Association page, which is alum.mit.edu, if you look at MIT students, if you click that, then you can click student group resources, and there you can find the data request form. So it takes a little searching. Or you can also contact me and I can send you the form. The next area of things that I want to do is talk about keeping your alumni engaged. Finding ways to invite them back to campus. Is there an appropriate annual event that they can come to? You know, there's a real fine line where you want to have your current members doing the work of the organization, and you want the alumni to feel a part of it, but you also want the alumni to have a new role, a role as an alum, and you know, kind of find a way to include them, but then also not make it feel that it's become a different kind of an organization or an alumni organization. Are there advisory roles or volunteer roles that would be appropriate for alumni to take? Is that something that would really be helpful to you? I think an important thing to think about if you did want to invite alumni to serve in volunteer ways is to create a job description for them and even create a term. You know, we'd like to have you try this for 1 year, and maybe they'd be someone who re-ups and does this for 5 years in a row. But then if they are someone who maybe it isn't a good fit or maybe taking on too much of a role, you have a limit that then you could maybe get yourself and or them out of in a way that wouldn't burn a bridge with that individual, unless of course you want to burn a bridge with that individual. And I think it's important too to remember what are the milestones or special occasions of your organization. If you guys are coming up on 5 years or near 5 years, that might be a good time to even think about celebrating it, and maybe it's just by celebrating by having an email that goes out to your alumni and saying this is where we are 5 years later, and perhaps be able to direct them to your website and news articles of what you've done recently, or information. A good idea too about having a nice solid website that maybe even has has messaging that makes alumni feel included or invited to see what's happening, is that if you also then have a donate button that goes to your account on the giving.mit.edu page, then that might be very appealing for them to maybe make a gift to your organization. Student organizations aren't allowed to have a fundraising campaign, like they can't send out a letter with a request for those alumni to give. However, if you were to do some fundraising and get them to your organization page, and that they can see how they can donate and do that on their own, then that's a way to do that without without breaking the rules of student organization fundraising. I am definitely a resource working in the Alumni Association. If you wanted to talk one-on-one about your specific organization, what we could do if you're planning an event. I've helped a lot of FSILGs, student organizations, residence halls plan reunion events or anniversary events, and I can show you some examples of what's been done. We can brainstorm about maybe some ways to message to your alumni or to the larger alumni community, and I'm happy to do that anytime. And we talked a little bit about connecting virtually. I think that those are really good ways to invite your alumni to come back and keep the values and traditions of the organization, but also then build on what the values of the organization are. And at the top of the mountain, we have questions and discussion. So why don't we kind of open it up and really talk about if this has raised more questions for you, and just have a discussion about what we can do maybe for another 5 or 10 minutes, and then go from there. Anything?
I guess one thing I did want to talk about a little bit is like getting alumni a little more involved.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We have an annual alumni weekend where they all come back and we get to see them and visit them. But also like the house culture changes a lot over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So like how do you suggest like just keeping strong ties between like every generation, essentially, even though the culture changes, just the natural rush of different people.
Well, I think that there are kind of salient topics or experiences so like brotherhood, and so I think that kind of thinking about kind of what your founding principles are, and kind of what were the things or the interests that kind of gravitated the brothers to, whether they were from 1950 or 2012, kind of what connected them or got them interested in wanting to pledge this organization and become initiated into this organization, and utilizing those things as kind of the connectors. And I know a lot of organizations are founded on service or philanthropy, and those are going to be things that, regardless of the year that you're there, are going to be connectors. So, maybe it's during your alumni weekend, you do a philanthropy event together that connects all of the brothers and gets them involved in an organization, some organizations have like a big kind of national organization that they do philanthropy with, but thinking about kind of those sort of founding principles and finding ways to do activities or events, or even have discussions about those things that will connect and make the experience true to everyone, regardless of age.
And also maybe kind of showing interest in asking for the stories about how things were, but then also countering maybe a little bit with how things are, and hopefully having a little bit of a dialogue about how what are the things that are the same, what are the things that are different. I think when you do have alumni that they are at different ages and stages. So your younger alumni, you probably definitely relate more to them, and inviting them over to watch a ball game or play football or something feels much more natural and is the right thing. But then, and just as you will too, 10 years out, you're probably starting a family, you know, your interests, your things are a little different. And then someone may even feel, okay, well, those kids today, I don't even understand them. But maybe what I'm doing in my work is something. So thinking about, well, if we can reach out to those guys who are, you know, 30 to 50 about the career advice and offering ways for them to offer advice or come back and talk about their careers, would connect them and give them something to do, be beneficial to you, and then also allow you to show them how the chapter is different, in a good way though.
Yeah.
And then for the older guys, I think some of it is allowing them to talk, allowing them to tell their story, and then also maybe making them feel really good that maybe they'll want to maybe they'll be in the position where they want to make a little donation to the organization.
Yeah.
So I think kind of understanding that with your alumni, you have to recognize that they're different age and stage, and even having conversations about how can we engage you back that isn't understanding that you're no longer a current member, but makes you feel fond about that time, but also makes you feel that you can give something back to help us succeed and, you know, become you in the future. So I think that's a good, you know, you have to have that sort of kind of a three-pronged approach.
I'm wondering about getting alumni involved. One of the things that my group is wanting to do is set up a mentorship program. And so since the group is pretty young, it wouldn't be, you know, just exclusively with former members of the group, but more broadly MIT alums who are, you know, working in policy or something like that. And so we've made some good headway in kind of finding some people who express vague interest, but then getting it to the point where people are responding to emails and, you know, everyone's busy, of course, so getting it to the point where people are really engaging with us, even if we're trying to make it pretty easy for them to do that. It seems like we just keep hitting a wall, and I don't know if you have any experience with that. I'm sure you have experience with, you know, just engagement, but maybe specific to student groups, if there's anything.
I think mentoring programs are really hard, and they're hard to sustain, and I think having a way to being able to set expectations is a good thing. Are you thinking in terms of your mentoring program being something that's sort of virtual, or
virtual.
and that people are emailing?
Right, or on the phone.
Yeah.
Once a month or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, it hasn't even reached that point because we put together a kind of a survey for people to fill out to get a sense for what time commitment they could make, because obviously we want to make it work for them. But, and we're very much aware that probably what we expect will change, and we'll have to work out the kinks, but it's been surprisingly hard, especially given the initial burst of enthusiasm that we got as feedback, to actually get people to commit and say, yeah, I'm going to do something for you guys.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things, I guess.
Let me think about it. Let's talk again, send me an email with a little more information, and then let's see what we could possibly brainstorm about. That is, I think mentoring programs sometimes are really hard, and it's and people want to do that, but how can you do it in a way that expectations are fulfilled for the students and for the alumni? And the Alumni Association has our online alumni directory, and we have alumni who have identified themselves as career advisors, where they will fill out an extra portion of their profile saying, this is how you can reach me, this is the times of days you like to reach me, these are my areas of expertise and what you can ask, you know, what would be interesting to ask me about. That's passive in that they do that and they may or may not have anyone ever reach them. You having alumni that have sort of expressed interest, but it's kind of getting it to that next level, is it's hard, and you may just have to just do something, and you may just have to do something. Just stop worrying about accommodating everyone and just try and accommodate someone, you know, and that might be what you have to do. Yeah.
How does the donate button work? How do we know? I want one of those.
The donate button works in that if your student organization is recognized by the Association of Student Activities and you have an account number, you can go to the Student Activities office and kind of request that account number be available for the giving.mit.edu site. And then what we'll do is we'll ask to have that populated onto the student organization list. And then what you can do is create a link that says donate and then make sure that it goes to the page that has your account number. And that's very easy, very soft, but if it's there, anyone who then who comes to your page or is seeking you out or learning more about you has that information and then also has that opportunity. And
it doesn't have to be alums.
Nope, it can be anyone. So I mean, if your members have grandmas that would like to make a gift, that's, you know, or if as a student you'd like to make a gift to MIT but designate it to your student organization, then that can go, and you know, it's a win-win. Any other questions about building community or culture or? Good. Do you both have infinite connection accounts with the Alumni Association? And okay, good. Know how to use it. Good. Good, good.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And Katie and I will hang around for a couple minutes
Yep.
if you have specific questions. And this is another MIT L.E.A.D session. We have one more session happening tomorrow night about, you can find out at the website what it's about because it's escaping me at the moment, which is terrible. And just, I guess, stay tuned for more sessions in the fall. Obviously, this won't affect you as much as you're graduating, and then also let other student organization members know that we do have these sessions available for students interested in learning more about leadership. So thanks for having. Please take more snacks and food before we go.